How's everybody doing today? So something I'm going to talk about today is we're looking for something in the future to give us a certain feeling. So when I do this thing, I'm going to feel this. When this happens, I'm going to feel happy. When this person gets in a relationship with me, then I'm going to feel love. Those types of statements, that type of thinking, where we postpone our happiness or emotion to a future point in time, is totally backwards. I used to do that all the time because I would think, you know, once I get that job I want, then I'll feel happy. Once I have that money that I want, I'll feel happy. Once I'm in that relationship that I want, I'll feel happy. And I got all those different things and it didn't make me feel happy. And so the choice is to be happy. It becomes a choice. And so we have to choose it. And we have to get into a place where we can allow ourselves to be happy. Because most of us, we have all these conditions, all these different things that have to work out, all these different things that have to go our specific way. And if they don't, we feel let down because we have attached all these different meanings to these things that need to happen. And so the key is realizing what we're telling ourselves that we need in order to feel happy. And so if we're waiting it on a future event, we're preventing ourselves from being happy in the current moment. Because happiness, joy, love, peace, bliss, all those different things, they happen in the current moment. They don't happen in the future because the past doesn't exist, the future doesn't exist. The present is the only thing that we have. We don't have anything else. That's the only moment, which is now, that we can experience something. And so the key is giving ourselves permission to feel those emotions now. And so this is why the breath work is so critical, is so we can change our state to a negative state to a positive state. And so we can get into that state where we can feel that bliss, peace, joy, happiness, love. And so once we get into that state, we can experience more of those things that'll give us those sensations. More of those things that'll give us a reason why to feel happy. More of a reason why to continue to do what we're doing. Because these practices, like the meditation, breath work, moving your body, journaling, expressing yourself, all these things are amazing. Because we can get out of the mind and then we can get into the body and we can become better tapped into ourselves. And so when we're better tapped into ourselves, we're more present. And so if somebody's charged with emotions, and this is something I see a bunch, sometimes I'll just talk to a patient, and after talking with them for 20 minutes, they'll just start to cry because they're holding on to so much stuff. And I'm there to walk them through it. And so they can get to that point where they can release, and it doesn't even need breath work. It's really interesting because some people are just so charged with emotions that these emotions are looking to come up to the surface. Because if we continue to repress these emotions, we'll just explode. And that's why people have nervous breakdowns, they just go crazy, is because of these reasons. It's because they repress these emotions. And so we need to get ourselves into that state where we can live in the present moment. And this isn't just thinking better, like I said in the last video. We have to change our state. We have to connect to ourselves. And so when we connect to ourselves, that's when we're going to make the big shift. Because when we connect to ourselves through the breath work, we can feel that happiness. We can feel that love. And then we'll attract those things in our life that will represent who we are being. Because we don't attract what we want, we attract what we are. And so we have to be happy in order to attract something that's going to make us feel happy. Or we have to feel love in order to attract something that's going to make us feel love. It's not the other way around, where, once this person comes into my life and they say that they love me, then I'm going to feel love. No. First, you have to feel that love, and then that person's going to come. First, you have to feel happy, and then that situation's going to come that's going to affirm that happiness. And so our world is literally just a reflection of the states that we're in. And so you've probably noticed it. When you're having a really good day and everything just flows and everything goes extremely well, and it just seems like icing on the cake, it's just super sweet. But then there's those days when things go wrong. Something might happen during the day, and we get to this point where it doesn't go how we're expecting, and then it just seems to go downhill, because you get into that state and then you get trapped in your mind. So say, for example, let's put this to an example so it can be very easy to understand. Sometimes I talk too much and it gets very ethereal. Even though I love being very mechanical in the way that I speak and think, very logical, but I'm also very ethereal too. So, back to the example. So, say we wake up, we get ready for work or whatever we're going to do. We put on our clothes, something nice, and then we go outside, and say we live in the city, and say we have to wait for the bus. And so while waiting at the bus, it starts to rain, and there's this puddle on the ground, and then a car runs over it and it splashes us. And our pants are just wet from just this city water from the street. Super lovely, right? And it just changes our state from a positive one to a negative one. Because obviously the meaning is it's like, okay, I'm wet now, I'm drenched, and I have to go to work or I have to meet this person. And so there's all this pressure to look a certain way, do a certain thing. And it's like, this has to happen in this timing, and if not, I'm going to be late. And then that comes with the pressure of like, if I'm late, then this happens, whether it's at work or meet a friend or go on a date or whatever it might be. And so we switch from that state because we have those meanings and stuff behind it, right? But the point that I'm trying to make is that little act of that car running over that puddle and drenching us then leads us to start reminiscing on that event that just happened prior. So 30 minutes from now, and say you can't go back home to change or whatnot, and you just have to go. And so while we're on the bus, we're thinking about that event that happened. Why'd that, car run over that puddle and now I'm all wet, what a horrible day. And we just go on through this mantra. And so something like that, where we're thinking and how we're feeling, and we're caught in the past, something that happened in the past, and that we're bringing that to our current moment. And so that is causing that distress and those worries. And so it starts to make the day take a turn for the worse. That one negative event happened, oh, this is just a terrible day. And then you're in that state where you're just like, this is a terrible day, why the thing happened to me, and you just keep thinking about it, you keep ruminating about it, and then more terrible things come to happen. Because you're in that state, you attract it. And so that's the key of this is whatever state that we're in, we'll find things that will make that true. We'll look for things too. Because our subconscious mind takes that in. Like, okay, a bad thing happened to me. I'm in a negative state. So I'm going to look for more negative things. And then it also is going to attract more negative things. And so that's why shifting to a positive state, the breath work, is super key. Because everything can just flow easier. And so the whole idea of this is we don't have to struggle in our life. And, you know, I thought I had to struggle. I was working 60, 80 hours a week, working for a startup as a mechanical engineer. My life was, you know, looked good on the surface. But, you know, deep below, I was deeply unhappy. Because I had all these different physical things for validation and success and whatnot. But deep down, I wasn't happy. And so for a long time, I followed my logical mind to be like, you know, I have to keep working this job to pay for the apartment that I'm living and to keep the lifestyle I'm living and whatnot, and just to keep everything going. And so, you know, that led to me to keep on doing that because it's just like, I feel like I need to. But I was in that state of just like this constant, just like I felt like there's a void in my life. And so I stayed in that state for so long. And that caused me to have that void in my life because I just kept in that state of the mind where I was thinking that there's a void in my life because I feel it. You know, I can't do what I want. I have to go to this job, all these different things. And that just consistently was just my life, and it was a loop. And it was only till I switched my state. It was only until I switched how I was being. I had to change my belief that it was possible to become free. I don't know if this even leads anywhere. Let's see. It's getting kind of dark out. We'll see. No, this is like a dead end. Nice. I have to go back up here. Get some climbing action in. And so for a long time, I just stayed at this job I hate. And it just wasn't fun. You know, on the surface, it seemed like fun. And there's some really cool people and in my life and whatnot. But they weren't truly friends because I wasn't truly aligned with myself. Because we also attract into our life what we are to. In terms of people, in terms of friends, relationships, like I was saying earlier. And so they basically mirror those things back to you. And so usually those people are unfulfilled and have a void in them in some aspect. And that's very common. Not to say that's bad or wrong. There's some people that love doing what they do. And that's perfectly fine. I honor and bless those people. But I myself was not one. And yeah. So, you know, the way that I escaped that was I had to drop out of my logic mind, right? And I had to follow something called my intuition, my heart. My heart knew that I wanted to help people. My heart knew, you know, that I wanted to make a change in my life. But, I was scared because of the logical implications of not having a job. How am I going to live? How are you going to make money from breath work, Austin? What does it look like? Everybody would ask me. And, I'm just like, I don't know. I don't know how I'm going to do any of it, but I just know that I'm going to do it. I don't know how it's going to get done. I just know that I'm going to do it. That's the kind of mindset that I had. And so that's how I was able to make the shift. And so, of course, there's a lot of other work in between. But the first thing is shifting our state from negativity. Because when we're in a state of negativity, we don't see the positive possibilities. We only see the negative possibilities. And so we have to be able to get into that, tune into it, even if it's for 5 minutes. Because when I was first tapping into these states of bliss and peace, I would only get into them for like 5 minutes a day. And just that 5 minute was just like a super relief for me. And that was huge to be able to do that. And so that just a window of relief where I could just start to pull in things to me and start to attract. Because when we get into those high states, we start to attract things. And so that's the essence of this. So just getting into those states more and more, but then also following it up with action, because, this only gets us so far. I've attracted things without doing any kind of physical action towards it. That's happened, that's nice. But there's also a lot of action that takes place in what I've done that's been brought to me. And so that's something too. But the key essence of this is we have to change our state from a negative to a positive. That's the essence of these little talks, especially this one. Because if we're waiting for a specific event to happen in order to feel happy, if I'm waiting to have my own business, or if I'm waiting to have my first client, or I'm waiting to that person to go on a date with me, or whatever it is, that's living from a place of lack and I'm not complete, because we're searching outside of ourselves for that happiness, that love, that peace, that bliss, that joy, that tranquility. We're searching outside of ourselves. And so nothing good ever comes from that. And I was telling somebody today, if the relationship between you and someone is built based on, I want to extract this out of you, it will always fail. Always. I feel a little bit lonely, so I want to get in a relationship, or, I want this person to take care of me in some aspect, or I want to take care of them. All that leads is destruction, because we're looking externally for somebody to fill our needs, and that can never be done. Never can be done. Because there was a point where I had literally everything that I've ever wanted, anything you could ever dream of, and I just still wasn't happy. And you see it with so many people, especially like movie stars and stuff. Think of Robin Williams. He literally had everything, but he was depressed. And so it's because people like him, they're searching externally in order to get that gratification. And that's why they go to such extremes. And so for me, I was searching externally, and I was going to all these different extremes, looking for all these different things, looking for women, partying, all these different things, traveling, whatever it was. Because I expected that external thing to take place, and I'm going to feel happy afterwards. But yeah, you might feel some joy for a moment, and then afterwards you just feel this emptiness, this void, something's missing. And so the thing that's missing in all of this is we just have to allow ourselves to feel what we're wanting to experience after we achieve that thing, or after that thing comes to us, or whatever it might be. And just allow ourselves to feel that, and eventually those things will come to pass. Those things will come to find us, and we will see evidence of that in our world. But we have to believe in it. We have to feel it, and we have to give ourselves permission to feel it now. And so if you need help doing that, changing your state from a negative state to a positive state, schedule a call with me and I can help you out. I can help you make that change, and it'll be a big impact in your life. And it's the first step to becoming free, because there's nothing better than freedom. Peace and love to everyone. I appreciate all of you, and I will see you on the next one.